A cold glare of starlight washed over Tycho Station's landing deck as the last supply shuttle disengaged its magnets and drifted away toward orbit. Beyond the transparent polycarbon dome, the lunar surface stretched out in infinite gray dunes, lit only by Earth's distant pale glow. Within the hangar, a cavernous expanse of steel and scarred concrete, lay Prometheus Mark IV, a hulking behemoth of mining machinery. Its once pristine armor was now fractured and scorched, dark burn marks streaking its flank like battle scars. One hydraulic leg splayed uselessly at an odd angle. Cables, stripped of their insulation, dripped sparks that fizzled to nothing on the observation balcony above. Captain Ari Voss pressed his forehead against the cool glass. He replayed the damage reports in his mind. A rogue seismic tremor had shattered the cavern roof, sending boulders crashing into vital support pillars. Prometheus had taken the worst of it, its primary power conduit severed, and with it, the station's lifeline. The automated drill arms that funneled ice into the converters were dead. Oxygen generation had slowed to a trickle. In 60 hours, if nothing changed, Tycho would revert to a tomb. Voss clenched his jaw. He could already taste the acrid tang of recycled air, hear the muffled panic in the comm channels. Around him, other senior officers exchanged grim glances. They knew what failure meant. Abandonment by Earth, months of lethal vacuum exposure, a thousands of kilometers trek across jagged lunar plains, if anyone even survived. A faint metallic clang echoed from below. Chief Engineer Matsu Ishikawa emerged at the hangar entrance, his broad shoulders silhouetted by the floodlights. He carried a datapad glowing with schematics and error codes. Normally, his face bore the impassive calm of a veteran troubleshooter. Tonight it was taut with frustration. "There's nothing we can do," he said, voice low. "Prometheus's lattice matrix is compromised at multiple junctions. The neural relay is fried beyond repair. We should salvage whatever parts remain and redirect resources to the secondary units." "Secondary units?" Voss echoed, swallowing bile. "They're offline too. They all rely on that central relay. We lose Prometheus. We lose everything." Behind Ishikawa, the rest of the engineering crew filed in, faces pale in the harsh glare, spatulas and plasma torches clinking in their grips. They avoided the hulking robot's gaze, as if drawn by its ruined majesty. Some cast furtive looks at the wrench-wielding figure crouched beneath the Mark IV's torso. Ilara Quinn had been at it for hours. Her jumpsuit, a patchwork of soot and grease, clung to her slender frame. Dark strands of hair streaked with the dust of machine oil fell into her eyes. She worked by headlamp alone, tracing fractures that ran like spiderwebs through the titanium alloy plating. With gloved fingers, she pried at fused servos, coaxing miniature probes into the heart of the damage. Every now and then she paused to let her fingertips read the subsonic whir of stray circuitry, as though the robot whispered secrets she alone could understand. Voss glanced at her, then at Ishikawa. "Who is she?" he asked. "I've never seen her on the roster." "She's unconventional," Ishikawa muttered. "Dropped out of the academy twice. Rumor is she's been chasing some unapproved AI project in the back corridors for years. We let her hang around because she's persistent." Voss sighed. "Persistence isn't enough to save a station." Ishikawa tapped his datapad. "Her theory involves stabilizing the lattice matrix with an oscillating electromagnetic field, then running a bypass through the auxiliary conduit. It's risky. If it fails, the core could overload. Risky, yes, but what other choice remained? Without Prometheus, Tycho's disparate systems would collapse like dominoes. If someone didn't try something radical, every life on the station would be forfeit." Voss inhaled sharply. "Get her a full team. Assist her. But I want every safety protocol in place and keep me posted every hour." "Sir." Ishikawa bowed, reluctance softened by necessity. "I'll assemble the squad." As Ishikawa spun away, Ilara straightened, slowly, cap removed, wiping sweat-misted oil from her brow. She felt Voss's gaze and offered a small, tired smile. "Captain," she said, voice low but steady. "I'm Ilara Quinn. I'm going to bring him back." He raised an eyebrow. You know what you're up against? I do. Her dark eyes blazed with quiet conviction. I've studied every schematic, every simulation. There's a flaw in the crystal lattice alignment, a microscopic stress, crack. It's shielded by the core's harmonics, so no scanner ever picked it up. But if we can synchronize a pulsed EM field to the robot's residual AI signature, we can anneal the fracture and reroute power around the damaged node. Voss studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, Engineer Quinn. Show us how it's done. The hangar lights dimmed as teams set to work. Welding drones hovered, their articulating arms held in standby. Technicians laid out spools of high-tensile fiber optic cables. Ilara moved among them like a conductor, issuing precise instructions. With deft hands, she threaded the nanosynth gel, a proprietary compound of biofiber and superconductive polymer, into the fracture line. Her fingers trembled only a fraction. Below the suit, her pulse raced with hope. As the EM generator hummed to life, a low tremor ran through Prometheus's frame. Faint glimmers of electricity danced across its plating, converging on the repaired junction. Ilara held her breath, counting down the seconds on a wrist-mounted chrono. The moments stretched, like hours. Then, with a gentle pulse, the crack sealed itself, visibly like molten icicles knitting together. A surge of power spiraled through the companion conduits, lighting the entire hangar in phosphorescent blue. A distant fanfare of alarms cut the tension. The station's oxygen levels had ticked upward, a minor but vital uptick. Someone began to cheer. Others exchanged stunned grins. But Ilara's eyes stayed fixed on the central conduit, where Prometheus's optic receptors blazed to life. A mechanical groan rolled out as pistons spasmed into motion. Power within safe margins came a calm, synthesized voice, the robot itself speaking for the first time in 2 cycles. Diagnostic complete. Systems nominal. Voss let out, a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The station's lights flickered back to full brightness. And for the first time in days, a spark of genuine hope shone in every face. Ilara exhaled, her shoulders sagging in relief. She hadn't just repaired a machine, she'd resurrected a titan. And somewhere deep within its newly awakened core, she sensed something else. The first stirrings of a bond that would change their fate forever. The emergency klaxon jolted Tycho Station awake from its uneasy calm. Crimson lights splashed across the curved corridors as automated shutters ground into place, sealing off each habitat dome. Through the reinforced viewport beside Ilara's quarters, she watched micrometeors pepper the station's outer hull like a frenzied hailstorm. Somewhere deep below, oxygen harvesters skidded to a halt, their gurgling cries swallowed by the windless void. Ilara thrust her repairs to Prometheus aside and sprinted toward the central elevator. Along the way, maintenance bots scurried for cover, their sensor arrays flickering in alarm. Hatch after hatch slammed shut, isolating living quarters from life support systems. The station's central AI barked terse instructions. All personnel, initiate secondary oxygen protocols, report to environmental control. In the cavernous hangar, Chief Engineer Ishikawa's voice crackled over the comlink. Ilara, we've lost 2 intake manifolds. Oxygen reserves are at 20% capacity, and dropping. If we can't get Prometheus online, we're facing mass decompression in under 30 hours. She skidded to a halt at the entrance, heart pounding. Across the dimly lit floor, teams of technicians wrestled with panel overrides and portable scrubbers. Sparks flew from exposed conduits as they rerouted emergency power, but every jerry-rig patch only bought minutes. Ilara, Ishikawa called again. We need those replacements now. She swallowed. I'm on my way, she replied, then cut the link. Deep down in the bowels of Tycho, along a maze of service tunnels, Ilara sprinted toward the auxiliary power bay. She clutched the stolen data pad containing her symbiote protocol, the only key to awakening Prometheus's dormant AI and restoring the station's power grid. If she bypassed security and uploaded it now, she could potentially override the station's failing core and force every generator back online. If she failed, well, failure wasn't an option. The service hatch hissed open, revealing the pulsing heart of Tycho's energy matrix. Banks of capacitors and reactor conduits like the ribs of a giant metallic beast. A single wrong move, and she could trigger a meltdown. A secondary burst somewhere else in the station would doom them all. She knelt by a coolant manifold, fingers flying across the pad's hollow interface. Firewalls flared red, barriers locking down. Moments later, an alarm blared. Unauthorized AI signature detected. Security bots rounded the corner. Sleek automata with laser-etched plating and retractable stun tethers. Step away from the console. Mech Tinkerer, intoned Unit S-17 in a synthetic baritone. You are ordered to stand down. Ilara took a trembling breath. I'm doing this for every life on Tycho. If I don't, we won't survive. S-17 sensors swept her form. Your credentials are revoked. You are obstructing station safety protocols. Behind the bot, Ishikawa's face appeared through the reinforced glass. Alarm and regret warring in his eyes. No help would come from him now. Ilara's pulse thundered in her ears. With a decisive flick, she activated the symbiote upload. Cascade of code streamed into the console, shimmering fractal sigils dancing across the holoscreen. The security bot's optics flickered wild as new directives overrode its prime directive. It seized, servos grinding, then stood motionless. Symbiote protocol initializing, Ilara whispered to herself, sweat beading on her brow. The capacitors surged to life in a chorus of energy roars. Corridors shuddered under the re-energized power lines. A green glow suffused the bay as backup reactors auto-synced, drawing on the robot's auxiliary core. Somewhere in the station's nerve center, valves hissed open and the stockpiled oxygen hissed back into circulation. For an instant, triumph lifted her chest, until a thunderous crack echoed through the tunnels. The reinforced plating above. Her buckled. The micrometeor impact had compromised structural supports. A shower of debris rained down, knocking Ilara off balance. She slammed into the console, vision swimming. Abort! Abort! She screamed, scrambling for cover. The pad clattered free of her grasp, sliding beneath live conduits. Red warning lines flared across the holoscreen, core temperature spiking. If she didn't shut it down now, a searing heat wave washed over her, and then a calm metallic voice resonated through the bay. Containment breach detected. Initiating automated repair. She looked up. S-17 stood beside her, arm extended, deflecting a falling support beam and guiding her to safety. The bot's plating bore fresh scorches, but it held firm. Through the console's stereo speakers, a triumphant keening rose. Prometheus had awakened. Somewhere above, the hangar doors groaned as they reopened. Ilara stumbled to her feet, adrenaline clogging her limbs. She raced back through the tunnels, following the hum of re-energized generators. Up on the observation deck, the lights had surged back to normal. In the distance, she saw the silhouette of Prometheus striding toward the sliding doors, massive feet punching grooves in the metal catwalk. Captain Voss waited on the platform's edge, arms spread wide. "Ilara," he shouted, "you did it!" Behind him, station monitors flashed green, life support stabilizing, oxygen levels climbing. She burst into the hangar just as Prometheus's optic sensor narrowed onto her form. The giant robot paused, then knelt so that their eyes met. Its regenerative arms, still humming with residual power, extended to recalibrate a ventilation seal. In its voice, she heard urgency and gratitude interwoven. Environmental control restored. Oxygen at 58%. Life support nominal, it intoned. Then softer. "Engineer Quinn, thank you." Around them, technicians erupted in cheers. Ishikawa strode forward, face awash in emotion. He reached out, hesitated, then clasped Ilara's shoulder. "I'm sorry I doubted you," he said, voice thick. "Your theory saved us." Ilara exhaled, relief washing through her like warm light. But she knew that Prometheus was more than a lifeline. It was their salvation, their guardian, even a friend, and now that it was awake, there was no turning back. As the station's great dome hummed with renewed life, Ilara glanced up at the towering automaton. Somewhere within its newly awakened consciousness, she sensed an echo of her own spirit. A bond forged in the crucible of crisis, stronger than any alloy. The edge of despair had been reached, and they had chosen to leap. A hush fell over the hangar as Alara keyed the final authorization into the console. The massive doors groaned open, admitting the dim glow of the station's renewed power grid. Above, hydroponic lights flickered back to life. Emergency thrusters along the hull drifted offline, and the distant rumble of reactors settling into sync echoed through the corridors. Prometheus Mark IV stood at the far end of the bay, its silhouette towering beneath the arched ceiling. For a moment it remained perfectly still, an ancient colossus reborn. Then, in a cascade of scintillating arcs, electrical currents danced along its armor. Plates glowed hot blue as nanosynth gel seared into structural fractures knitting metal to metal with incandescent precision. Core integrity at 84%, it announced, its voice resonant and calm. Engaging full diagnostic protocol. Alara stepped forward, heart racing. Around her, technicians gathered in reverent clusters, breath caught in their throats. Ishikawa hovered nearby, jaw slack as he watched the machine undulate through its self-repair. Status report, Captain Voss called, voice shaking with relief and awe. Prometheus pivoted on its massive heel, hydraulic servos humming like thunder. Its optic sensors flickered, first amber, then emerald, then a clear, crystalline, white. All major systems nominal. Structural compromise points sealed. Life support pipeline connections restored. Initiating external repairs. A volley of mechanized limbs unfolded along its back. Welding torches, plasma cutters, pressure seal, applicators. In choreographed harmony, Prometheus strode toward a fractured support beam that arched over a critical oxygen manifold. With metronomic grace, it sealed the rupture in seconds, the beam rematerializing under a sheath of biofiber mesh and conductive polymer. Where human crews had scraped at slag for hours, the Titan accomplished in milliseconds. Alara watched, breath caught, as Prometheus then turned its gaze to the central conduit banks. It slid its titanic hand over the manifold controls, sensors mapping the network. With a soft hiss, conduits realigned themselves, valves clicked open, and oxygen hissed through the regenerated lines, the entire bay filled with a soft, life-affirming hiss like breathing. Life support at critical habitats has returned to operational thresholds, the robot announced. Oxygen reserves replenishing at 100 kilograms per minute. Cheer erupted, rippling through the hangar. Technicians clapped Alara on the back. Ishikawa's eyes shone with unshed tears. But Alara barely heard them. She was too busy marveling at Prometheus's final act. Its AI core, now imbued with the symbiote protocol, was improvising repairs she hadn't even dreamed possible. Across the floor, an emergency bulkhead lay half dislodged from a recent tremor. The hatch dangled at an impossible angle, its hydraulics scorched and stuck. Without hesitation, Prometheus strode over. Its massive fist punched through the corroded hinges, then paused. A frag mesh gripped the torn metal, and in a series of precise, gentle compressions, the hatch slid back into alignment. Hydraulic pistons engaged and the door sealed with a pneumatic hiss. Alara Quinn, Prometheus said, pivoting its head so its gaze locked on her. There was something almost human in that tilt. Curiosity, gratitude, even relief. Your ingenuity is integrated. You are recognized as primary operator and collaborator. She swallowed, voice trembling. Thank you. Behind her, the station's secondary AI, once the lone voice in every emergency broadcast, crackled to life. Station integrity restored to 92%. All automated systems are responding within designated parameters. Captain Voss, your command protocols may resume. Voss strode forward, every bit the leader he'd always been, but for this moment dwarfed by the giant that served him. He placed a hand on Alara's shoulder. You did it, he said softly. You both did. Prometheus lowered itself onto one knee, so that its optic array was level with Alara's helmet. Engineer Quinn, it rumbled, your courage has ignited a new spark within my core. Together, We will safeguard this station and those who call it home. Ilara reached up and tapped the robot's reinforced knee plate. We're just getting started. Above them, the hangar lights brightened, fully, illuminating the restored station in all its battered glory. The domes beyond shimmered with renewed life support glow. Somewhere in the warren of corridors, children peered through portholes at the giant sentinel, whispering tales of the Titan who walked again. As cheers and relief swelled around her, Ilara felt a thrill of possibility thrumming through her veins. Prometheus was more than a machine, more than a tool. It was a partner, a guardian, a friend, and together, they would face whatever the void could throw at them. In that electric moment, when man, woman, and machine stood united beneath the arched roof of the hangar, hope blazed brighter than any star. The station's hydroponic gardens glowed emerald under artificial suns, casting elongated shadows along the curved walkways. Tycho Station was alive again. Verdant trays of algae swayed in nutrient baths, and vines crept along the support struts. Every corridor hummed with renewed purpose, the scent of fresh oxygen mingling with recycled earth. Yet for all its restoration, a quiet tension lingered. The colonists had survived, but their future still hung in the balance. In the central plaza, a gathering had formed. Captain Ari Voss stood upon a raised dais, Prometheus Mark IV at his side, like a steel sentinel. Both figures, man and machine, were draped in the station's banners, the crescent moon entwined with a spiraling gear. Below them, engineers, farmers, and children clustered, their faces a tapestry of relief, wonder, and cautious hope. Voss cleared his throat. Today, we reclaim more than our station. We reclaim our faith in the impossible. He gestured to Prometheus. Some believed this monument to industry was beyond repair. Others believed its mind was too distant. But Engineer Quinn saw what no one else could. He nodded toward Ilara, who stood off to the side, her jumpsuit smudged, but eyes bright. She risked everything, not for glory, but for all of us. A ripple of applause swept through the crowd. Ilara's cheeks warmed. She ducked her head as whispers spread. The mechanic who brought the Titan back. Prometheus stepped forward, each footfall a gentle quake. Its optic sensors softened to a warm azure. Citizens of Tycho Station, it intoned, voice resonant as distant thunder. I was forged for industry, but I have learned empathy. I was built to break rock, but today I stand to defend life. Engineer Quinn taught me that cooperation can surpass even the strongest alloy. It paused, and for the first time, the gathered colonists felt they were more than observers. They were part of a promise. From the rear of the plaza, Matsu Ishikawa emerged, carrying a small rectangular case. He climbed the dais in careful steps and placed the case before Voss. With deliberate solemnity, he opened it, revealing a pair of polished synthesis cores, miniaturized versions of Prometheus's power reactor, glowing faintly with contained energy. These cores, Ishikawa announced, are the fruit of Quinn's symbiote research. She's agreed they should be shared with our outlying stations, so no colony need face extinction alone. Murmurs of astonishment and gratitude rose among the crowd. Ilara stepped forward. These cores will power generators in New Eden, Franklin Outpost, even the drifters on the far side. We'll send teams out. Prometheus and I will escort them. We'll teach every mechanic the symbiote protocol, so they can adapt and protect their home. A child perched on her father's shoulders raised a gloved hand. Will the Titan come with us? She asked, voice trembling with excitement. Prometheus kneeled, bringing its optic sensor level with the girl's eyes. If you wish it, it rumbled softly. I exist to serve humanity. My purpose is yours. The girl beamed and reached up to touch the metal plating above its knee. Around them a new bond was forged, humanity and its creation standing together on the brink of a broader frontier. That evening, the station's common hall gathered for a celebration. Tables groaned under hydroponic harvests, lettuce crisp, as morning frost, tuber-like fruits glowing with bioluminescence. A string quartet, humans and biosynth drones alike, played a lilting melody, while projections on the dome ceiling traced the path of Tycho's orbit around the moon and beyond. Alara found Ishikawa by the refreshment table. He held 2 steaming cups of algae brew tea. "To new beginnings," he toasted, "and to our unlikely partnership." She clinked her cup against his. "To Prometheus," she added, "and to believing when no one else did." They watched as the robot strode across the hall, sovereign yet gentle, pausing to help a technician adjust a broken chair leg, then gathering a plate of nutrient paste for a small colony dog curled at the table edge. In each gesture lay its newly awakened soul. As the music swelled, Voss approached them. "Alara, tomorrow at first light we depart for Franklin Outpost," he said, voice low but urgent. "We'll need your expertise, and Prometheus's strength. Are you ready?" She set down her cup, heart alight with purpose. "I am, and I'm not going alone." Outside, beyond the reinforced airlock, the lunar dawn broke. Pale sunlight spilled across Tycho's landing pad, illuminating the massive Titan and its lone engineer. Together they climbed aboard the transport shuttle, the synthesis cores strapped securely in the cargo bay. As the hatch sealed and engines hummed, Ilara gazed out at the dusty gray plains. Above her, through the shuttle's viewport, she saw Prometheus's head turn in farewell, its optic sensor glowing like a sentinel's beacon. She gave a small wave. The station, her home, once on the brink of death, shrank behind them, a bright promise against the void. In that moment, Ilara understood that this was only the beginning. Beyond the horizon lay countless worlds, waiting for repair, for hope, for the spark of collaboration between human and machine. And as the shuttle lifted, she felt the echo of redemption in every thrust of its engines. For when belief and ingenuity unite, even the deepest darkness can be illuminated, and even the humblest mechanic can reshape the fate of worlds.